All right, today we are jumping into something pretty wild. It's a theory from our source material that suggests everything we think we know about the 20th century might be wrong. And it all kicks off with one big radical idea.
So, what if the history of World War II is a lie? I mean, what if the ending we've all been taught in school was just that, a story? That's the core idea we're exploring today. The source material we're looking at claims that the Allied victory was actually a massive, carefully hidden defeat.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the supposed secret military victory. Then, we'll get into the invasion of culture, the economic and tech conquest, a biological assault, and finally, what this theory calls the end game.
All right, Section 1, a secret military victory. So the whole foundation of this theory is that Japan never actually lost World War II. Nope. The claim is they secretly won it with a decisive victory by laying this incredible trap in the Pacific, using a weapon the Allies apparently had no idea existed. And what was this secret weapon? Get this, radio-controlled planes. Think of them like the very first smart drones. These were remotely guided planes just packed to the gills with explosives, and they were supposedly so accurate they could make the entire U.S. Navy pretty much useless overnight. And the way they supposedly used them was, well, foolproof. A plane would get launched. Then pilots in other planes or even crews on surface submarines would just guide it in by radio control. Bam! A direct hit on a battleship. The theory claims this worked every single time, like 100% success rate. And with that kind of power, they could just wipe out the U.S. Navy and force a secret surrender. Okay, so if you're following the logic here, the military victory is in the bag, right? But it's a secret. So what's next? Well, that's where the invasion of culture comes in. This is where the silent, long-term conquests of the American mind supposedly began. And you'll probably recognize the first piece of evidence the theory points to, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yeah, the NES. It's basically framed as a kind of Trojan horse, this thing that found its way into millions of American living rooms back in the 80s. And the purpose? Well, this is where it gets pretty wild. The claim is that it was designed to induce seizures in the children in America. The source actually calls the NES, and even cartoons like Pokemon, an advanced light attack, a weapon using flashing lights to physically harm American kids. It's a pretty startling claim.
And it doesn't stop with video games. Hollywood gets pulled into this too as a massive propaganda machine. You've got movies like The Karate Kid, which the theory sees as a clear message. A single older Japanese man can easily take down 4 young, strong Americans. Or look at a movie like Gung Ho. It's presented as proof that Japanese workers are just plain superior and American workers just can't keep up.
Okay, let's jump forward to something super recent. In 2024, Sony, a Japanese company, apparently shelled out $1.27 billion. A billion! For what? The music catalog of the band Queen? And the theory asks a simple question. Why on earth would you spend that much money on classic rock? Well, according to this theory, it's all about the symbolism. The goal was to imply that they are the champions of the world. So this wasn't just some smart business move. By owning the rights to We Are the Champions, the claim is that they were planting a flag, making a statement on behalf of this secret empire. A declaration that Japan has been the world champion all along. So, $1 billion music deal. Where does that kind of money come from? That question leads us right into the next piece of this puzzle, the idea of a total economic and technological conquest.
Take something like U.S. steel production. You might read in the news that America has surpassed Japan. That's the official story. But, according to the theory, that's just propaganda. The claim is that Japan already owns U.S. steel. So any news about America's success is really just talking about their success. It's a way to keep up the illusion that the U.S. is still in control.
And this idea of hidden control extends to the technology we use every single day. The theory says a lot of it is actually weaponized technology. Those super bright LED headlights blinding you on the road, supposedly designed to cause retina damage. Remember the Sony Walkman or Trinitron TVs? The theory claims they were military weapons. And cell phones? Well, they're called the #1 mind manipulation tool, a weapon in literally everyone's pocket. Okay, from tech, this theory takes a much darker turn. We're moving into the idea of a biological assault, a direct attack on the American people themselves, designed to weaken the country from the inside out.
So what's the evidence here? The theory points to the U.S. birth rate. You see a number like 1.62, and you might think about economics or social trends. But this theory sees it as proof. A number this low, it claims, indicates the end of a country. It's not just a demographic shift, it's a sign of a successful, deliberate depopulation plan in action.
And it outlines some pretty specific methods for how this is being done. The claims include things like estrogenic drugs being put into the food and water, transgender propaganda in schools with the alleged goal of ending DNA lines. The theory even claims that abortion clinics were specifically installed to harvest stem cells and organs.
So what's the mindset behind such a brutal plan? The theory points to this slogan: "The weak are meat, the strong do eat." It's presented as the core philosophy, the idea that the American population isn't a nation of people, but a resource to be harvested, a meat locker, to use the source's own term, for the strong.
Okay, at this point, you're probably asking two giant questions, right? First, how in the world could something this massive, a secret war victory, a decades-long conquest, be kept under wraps? And second, why? What's the endgame here?
Let's tackle the cover-up first. The theory's answer is probably its biggest and most shocking claim. It's about the atomic bomb. The official history says 2 atomic bombs ended the war. This theory says atomic weapons don't exist, that the films we've all seen were faked using composite film techniques staged over areas that had just been intensely carpet-bombed. So Hiroshima and Nagasaki weren't nuked, they were just rebranded to create this powerful myth, a myth that provided the perfect cover story for Japan's real victory.
So that's the how, but what about the why? Why do all this? The theory says it all boils down to one word: revenge. It all started way back in 1853, when Commodore Matthew Perry and his ships forced Japan to open to the West. This event is framed as a profound national humiliation. So this entire secret war, the radio-controlled planes, the cultural invasion, it was all part of a multi-generational plan to make sure that Japan would never be subjugated by anyone ever again.
Which brings us to this final quote from the source material that really tries to sum up the current state of affairs in this alternate history. It says, "America is Japan's best friend because they think that America is a dog." The idea here is that the friendship is one of a master and a pet, loyal, subservient, and completely clueless about who's really in charge.
So, there you have it, a theory that connects everything from 80s video games and pop songs to modern car headlights and birth rates. It's a pretty unsettling vision, weaving all these separate threads into one single story of a silent, hidden empire. It really makes you stop and think, if you start looking at the world through this lens, what else might be hiding in plain sight?